Welcome to Embodied Microdosing, where we explore the miracles that happen when we combine intentional doses of sacred mushrooms with trauma-informed somatic practices. Hi, I'm Rai, and this ministry is on a mission to help you embody healing. Let's answer your questions and call in expansion so you can integrate these highly effective evidence-based tools into your journey. Embodied microdosing is where science and spirituality meet to awaken the healer within. Let's take one conscious breath together. And begin.
Hooray! You're here on another episode of the Embodied Microdosing podcast. I'm super psyched to hang out with you today and to get into our theme of creating and working with a sacred space. I have found this practice to be paramount for developing an embodied microdosing process and practice, personal practice that's anchored, that has some structure, that calls me back again and again and helps me create some consistency. Now, you may be tuning into this episode thinking, what is a sacred space? Do I have to do this? Or you might be an experienced self-healer and spiritual seeker, and you've already got what you call an altar, and it's an anchor for you for your spiritual practices. Wherever you fall on this spectrum of self-healers with a space or a wannabe space to feel and to pray and to breathe, this episode is for you. We will get into how to work with a sacred space, but more than that, if you already have one, let's talk about how to upgrade or enhance or cleanse or purify or completely change your sacred space so that it is supportive for where you're at right now in your practice. You know, you might be clinging to an altar that was a representation of you from a year ago with items and pictures and prayers and even medicines that are not necessarily right for you right now. So let's create a sacred space, an altar space that is for you on this part of your journey. Now, before we get started, I just want to invite you, listener, to check out the show notes and to really consider joining me for a 4-week embodied microdosing challenge. Starting on April 25th, we are going to spend 4 consecutive weeks or 28 days in a container all together inside the ministry community, practicing the art and the science of microdosing with consistency and dropping into embodiment. That's breathwork and other somatic practices for 60 minutes a week on the embodiment portion. This is often the missing piece. I don't meet too many people who are having trouble getting consistent with the microdosing, although that's not entirely true. Sometimes if microdosing is bringing up a lot of emotions, someone will kind of hit the brakes on it and say, like, I don't really want to feel what's coming up with that. But generally speaking, getting fairly consistent with microdosing, not terribly hard for someone, especially who feels a little sparkle on a microdosing day, who feels supported. The piece of the sacred equation of microdosing and embodiment that often falls away is that embodiment piece. And that's really the critical part that helps address the nervous system and the unchecked trauma that's running the show in the background. So when we put these two things together, and this is what I support you to do in the 28 days that we'll spend together in this container, when you put these things together, that's when the traction happens. That's when the magic starts to unravel. That's when the truth comes up and comes out. And a lot of times if someone is super resistant to either getting consistent with the microdosing or getting consistent with the embodiment, there's something they're hiding from themselves. There's something they're suppressing, right? Maybe they're in a marriage that is completely out of alignment, and every time they microdose and breathe, the truth of that is up, and they have to face it. Right? I get it. It's scary to face the truth. Or maybe it's just like, I don't want to cry. And so there's a deeper layer to that, right? Like what is that? What's the narrative? What's the story that you have about yourself when you feel, and what's so deeply uncomfortable about that you want and need to suppress it and push it aside? There's so many layers to this experience of healing. And I just want to encourage you, if you're having trouble getting traction and getting started, there's a lot more to this than just put some sacred mushrooms in your mouth and you'll probably have a healing. So much more. It's the entire reason this ministry was created. So I want to invite you to join me for the 28-day embodied microdosing challenge. The details are in the show notes. It's included in the Journey to Heal membership, in my membership monthly community at $49 a month. That challenge is included 4 times a year. This is the springtime challenge. And this is the first time I am able to offer outsiders, those who are not in the membership, the opportunity to pay a la carte, one set fee, $56 just to do the challenge, to spend that 4 weeks in a container with me. So this is a steal of a deal, and I want you in there if you want to get consistent and learn from me. All right, moving on to our episode. So, okay, when I began working with sacred mushrooms, I had this teeny tiny spot in my bedroom bookshelf, at the very bottom of the bookshelf in my bedroom. I would sit on the ground. I just had a regular cushion from my couch that I would sit on, and I kept the little spice jar there that my sacred mushrooms were in, the dried sacred mushrooms, and I had some items around it that held significance for me. This was in the very early days of people like being crazy about crystals and stones, although I recognize that's been going on for a long time. But when it first kind of hit the mainstream, and there were, great little shops all around where you can get some sparkly stones and some sage and just these little spiritual anchors. Those things for you might look like a stone from the beach that you can hold, that you picked up when you were younger, a gift that your grandmother gave you when you were little, an old stuffed animal. It doesn't have to be, from a spiritual shop. It can hold your Bible, and it can hold a little cross that you hold in the palm of your hand. My son has one of those crosses that you can rub it with your thumb, and it's like a worry stone, but it's a worry cross, I guess. Great. Like any little significant items that remind you of what's important, that bring you into a place of spirituality. Maybe you have some sage or some Palo Santo or something to burn and create a little smoke there, like I did. And that little corner was so special to me. I would run to it. When I was triggered, it was like, I don't know what to do. I have to go to my spot. I think I called it my spot to start. And I would just sit there and come back to my intention. Remind me, show me, what was my intention today? Oh, to lead from love. Yeah, struggling with that right now. So it was an anchor for me. And over time, that little corner grew. And today it takes up a pretty significant section of my bedroom closet. When I travel, I bring a couple of pieces with me, and these little pouches or whatever boxes that I put these meaningful objects in can come with me wherever I go, which I share that with you to let you know that the sacred space really isn't about the actual spot, right? That's just a logistical piece. It's about that intention that you have to center yourself in your spiritual practices, wherever you're at in your spiritual journey. So is it necessary to have a dedicated space? No, it's not. In fact, it's funny that I'm recording this episode right now because I have not been sitting at my sacred space for probably a month. And I haven't spent the last month not going into sacred space within myself, but springtime is here. And so my real sacred space is out in nature. So this morning, for example, as soon as I woke up, I walked outside and I was barefoot and I stared at the sun rising over the horizon and took in that light, so important. And I did some lymphatic massage on my collarbones and my neck and ears and on my armpits and all the way down my body, just kind of rubbing and activating those centers, those areas that make lymph flow. So right there, something I'm doing in my quote unquote sacred time that's like, what? That's not spiritual. Yeah, for me, lymphatic flow is spiritual, and it's self-touch. It's embodiment, right? I'm not just like, oh, I have to rub my armpit now because my body has a hard time detoxing. It's like, the feeling of my hand stroking on my skin and asking my body to wake up. Like, that's spiritual for me. So I was on the grass, I was barefoot, I was getting some grounding in. And after I finished my little lymph flow routine, I just kind of walked around the yard and I prayed. I prayed out loud to myself, to God. I spoke my microdosing intention out loud, and I allowed the outdoors, my yard, to be my sacred space. So you don't have to have a dedicated space like inside your home or apartment, but I find it to be incredibly supportive, especially if you're really struggling and moving through something specific. It can be the first place, a safe place for you to go to. So let's get into some aspects of this place. It's pretty key that you not overcomplicate this. For those with, the complex trauma sort of archetype running the show, hopefully not forever, everything can become overwhelming or something to get incredibly perfectionistic around and, dogmatic about. And it has to be this way. And I can't do it because my kids are over there and I want this and I can't have the ideal version. So forget it. I can't have any version. Just notice if you're making this complicated or letting your trauma run the show on it. It does not have to be. It's something like my little bottom shelf in a closet with 3 little items and my sacrament there. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be public, and it doesn't have to be anything that anybody else understands. You don't have to justify this to the people in your family or your partner. This is just for you. I will say, even in the hardest season of my life, when we were unsheltered, we did not have stable housing, and we were staying in garages and Airbnbs and campers. My sacred space was this little hill tucked into the pines. I could see if somebody was coming, but it was hidden enough where I could cry and roll around in my tears and feel safe. So again, an outside space, but a space that was hidden from everyone. And I did bring some objects out there. So wherever you decide to create this space, just bring your intentionality to it. You can let other people in the home know this space is mine, especially little curious hands. This is not for playing and touching and moving anything around. My 8-year-old, was very curious about my sacred space, especially when he would come wake me up in the morning and I was over there with a lit candle, and there was smoke and I was breathing. It was like, what's happening in here, right? Like, what a beautiful thing to model for a child. And I would let him sit with me in the early days of him exploring it. And he was not allowed to touch many things. He would have to ask my permission to touch. So, helping him understand this is sacred in that it's not just another area of the house where you can just grab at it and take it and make it your own. These are my special items. When they're really little, I think I had a phase where it was up on the mantle when he was a toddler, like there's no point in trying to explain to a 3-year-old, but an 8-year-old, yes. And you know what, y'all, my 8-year-old made his own sacred space after seeing mine. He found this little table, teeny tiny table that he put on top of his end table, and he put some rocks there and a little statue that my mom gave him of a little boy hanging out with his dog. And it's like, oh my God, you have your own little sacred space. How cute is that? So, you're modeling something really cool here, moms, if you're up to this. Okay. Your altar, your sacred space, I call it sacred space because altar, I think for some people, there may be some religious trauma around that, but it is. It's a living thing. It's a living space. It's not static. It should kind of evolve and shift as you evolve and shift and grow. So maybe I'll share with you what's on my altar. So I have a little shelving unit and a meditation cushion in front of it. I did invest in like a $50 meditation cushion after many, many years of sitting on couch pillows, which do the job just fine. But I'll tell you, a sturdy meditation cushion, wow, really nice to sit on. And it's like a little shelving unit with 4 cubes. So I have 4 little sections to work with. And then on top of the shelving unit, I have another little, they call them altar tables. I did order it on Etsy. It's handmade of pine. And it's just kind of an extra shelf, an altar table that you can put objects and items on. And of course, the tinctures and the medicines that I work with take up one of those quadrants there. The sacrament, the sacred mushroom, always has a spot on the altar. And in fact, I put it on top of a flat crystal. So it's kind of like elevated and standing in its own special little spot because it is the primary medicine that I work with. You will find that there are teachers who will teach to put the medicine that you're praying with. Let's say that you are studying with combo. or, some other Amanita muscaria, maybe another type of mushroom. Make that the centerpiece, make that highlight that medicine like I do with sacred mushrooms. I even have a dried psilocybin mushroom sitting next to it just to remind me of the mushroom in its whole form, because it's in a bottle and pretty. I'm seeing it the way it grew by having that dried mushroom there to look at sometimes. Other medicines that I work with, a full spectrum hemp or CBD, almost always I take that twice a day. Sometimes I take it at my altar. I do have another bottle with my other medicines. Rose is a really potent, powerful medicine for me, and I absolutely adore it and love working with a rose tincture. That was a small batch that I shared with the community and should have back in the sacrament shop after summer is over and I harvest more fresh organic rose petals from my property. And passion flower, that's what I would take in the evening. Passion flower is amazing for eliciting a relaxation response in the body, for helping support restful, deep sleep. So those are just some of the tinctures and medicines that I work with. There's probably a few more over there, but I'll start by just sharing those with you, mostly in tincture form. That's how I prefer to work. And then, of course, ways to make fire. I love lighting a candle right at the start of the time at the sacred space. I feel like for me, as someone who struggles a little bit with focus, that lighting that candle is immediately like anchoring to me. Like, here we are, while this candle is lit, I am here. I'm not jumping up to do one more thing, or, oh, wait, before I start, let me go X, Y, and Z, throw in a load of laundry or whatever, right? The ways that we can get distracted by the desire to multitask. I am here. I lit the candle. I'm going to want to jump up and remember and think of a million things, but this candle is reminding me that this is a sacred time here, even if it's lit for 3 minutes. I should probably make a side note here. You can visit your sacred space or your altar for 3 minutes. You can visit your sacred space or altar for 3 seconds. We love to make these rules like, no, I don't have an hour to meditate, or I should probably do it on Sunday because that's a more spiritual day. Or it's just fascinating, all of the ways that we can talk ourselves out of it. And like, a lot of the time, I don't feel like going to my sacred space. I hear people say this about exercise and like, wow, haven't quite conquered that one yet. But I don't feel like it a lot of the time. But I see it and I know like this is an anchor. This is going to support me right now. And I'd say to myself, just sit for a second. Just sit there and say thank you, right? Just sit there and have a couple gratitudes. Just sit there and take 10 breaths. Easy. I can do that. 3 minutes. And guess what? It usually ends up being 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? A couple of songs, if that's an easy way to measure, and you like music to support you through your practices. So a candle, I do have black candlesticks. I have some really beautiful brass. Go like search through your dining room for like the fancy stuff that you never use and use it. Use the candlesticks. Use a like platter you never use to display your cool stones on. Like, bring together all the cool stuff that you have into this one space. So candles. And of course, I mentioned the sage and the Palo Santo and crystals. Those things are pretty common for some folks, but whatever. I don't want to say common. I don't really know. What would you put in your altar, right? What's in your sacred space? Maybe you have some oracle or tarot cards. Maybe being able to pull cards is a way that you connect with and commune with the divine. Maybe you have a pendulum and you use that divination tool to ask questions and to discern. Maybe you just need your hand on your heart and a picture of your grandmother on the corkboard above your altar to bring you to that place of connection to spirit, source, God, your ancestors, spirit animals, whatever you believe, whatever name you use for God. This is your place to center that, your spiritual practices. I didn't finish talking about my setup. I have that shelving unit. I have the little altar table on top of the shelving unit. I have the meditation cushion, and then I have a huge corkboard propped up above it, leaning on the shelving unit. I really need to attach it to the wall because sometimes it falls, but it's a white corkboard, so it's pretty. For some reason, that colored corkboard looks too like Staples, 1997 Office Space, whatever. And that white corkboard, I think I got it on Amazon for like $20 or something, is my favorite part. Because when I am just kind of lost, I have to just look at the corkboard. There are photos of my younger self where I can connect to little me, teenager me. There's beautiful pieces of art that I've been given or have bought that remind me of my inner life, my spiritual life, my healing journey. There's greeting cards, beautiful thank you cards from clients and friends that say words that just remind me of who I am and how I'm loved. There are little mantras and prayers and reminders that I've written to myself about my healing. I'll share a recent one that I added there. I had a really hard week a couple of weeks ago when everything was out of whack, let's blame the eclipse. Everything was totally out of whack. And I grabbed a piece of paper and a purple Sharpie at the end of one day. And I was like, oh no, I am going to remember what I need to remember so this doesn't happen again. And I wrote a list, an order of operations. And it's 4 things in this order, top to bottom. First, God. Second, me. Third, family. Fourth, ministry. I needed to remember the order of operations for who was important in my life on a daily basis. I had allowed the ministry, not uncommon for me, to become number 1, and everything else was falling apart. Me, my family, my health, right? Can you relate? Right? And right, is there such a thing as balance? I don't know, not really, but there is an order of operations for me where when I am upside down, I can take a breath, put my hand on my heart, a hand on my belly, and ask myself what is needed here, right? Where am I at in this list, right? What prayer is needed? What self-care is needed? What do my children and my husband need, right? And what can I say no to too, right? This isn't just about being a servant to everyone and everything. And then how can I serve my community? That's just for me, that note up there. So lately, the last few weeks when I'm at my sacred space and I light my candle and I take a breath and I look up, I'm like, oh, yep. Thanks for the reminder, Rye, of 3 weeks ago. So let's see what else. Why don't I take you into what it might look like when I sit down in my sacred space? So you have a feeling for this. Now, inside the Embodied Microdosing Ministry, the completely free space where you are welcome to join, there are an abundance of resources there for you to use and work with the sacred mushroom and with your body and with your breath. I do have a little section in the free area about creating a sacred space. And in fact, a lot of what I pulled for this podcast episode is directly from that content. So if you want a place to go read the ebook and get a refresher on what I'm talking about here, or watch a video of me actually working with my sacred space, with me narrating, here's what I'm doing, I don't feel shy about sharing. Now, I recorded it for the purpose of recording it for you. I don't record myself every day when I'm in my sacred space, but I don't feel shy sharing how to do this because I have met so many of you over the years who feel incredibly stuck in this area. Like, okay, so I make this space and I sit down and then what, right? It can be a little overwhelming and intimidating. Like, then what do I do? Well, then you can hit play on one of the many, many recordings inside the Embodied Microdosing Ministry and allow me to guide you, not to outsource your power, but to model for you, to show you, to walk you through what it looks like to use your breath, your body, your intention, and your prayer to move through this time in sacred space. But yeah, let me just share what I do. So I'll sit down and, like I said, I'll begin by lighting that candle. As long as that flame is burning, I'm there. I check in with my body, maybe take a few breaths. And there's 3 words that I use over and over again. If you're feeling the call to microdose but unsure about where to start or to source, the Embodied Microdosing Sacrament Shop is a safe and sacred space for you to explore. Inside, you can find pure, organic, handcrafted tinctures, including our 2 mushrooms, psilocybin and Amanita muscaria, both designed for your healing, grounding, and connection. We also have flower remedies like rose, lavender, holy basil, just perfect to complement your mushroom microdosing practice. All of these liquid remedies are easy to dose, very tasty, and can be taken directly in your mouth or added to your tea or water. If you're curious about how they feel, you can read some of the testimonials inside the shop for inspiration. You can explore all of the offerings at embodiedmicrodosing.com/shop. These are sacred remedies for spiritual self-healers. That's embodiedmicrodosing.com/shop. What's here now? Right now, in this moment, what's here? I don't try to quiet my mind. I feel like that's pretty important. I might say what's here is a lot of chatter, right? What's here is a lot of panicking and fear around what else needs to be done today, or who I'm making up might be mad at me, so I have to go fix it. Right? Let the loud chatter be there. Let it be. What's here now? I'll continue taking breaths. Then I might move into taking some rose medicine, for example, or maybe some CBD, something to kind of shift my state and allow me to feel the support of a medicine. This is why I keep them at the altar, at the sacred space. I could take that rose, put it in the bathroom and take it, I don't know, before I wash my face, right? But there's something really potent about taking it and then closing my eyes, taking a few breaths and asking again, what's here now? And I might discover, there's some grief here, right? Rose is incredible for opening the heart. Or there's some anticipation here for the day. I might also just start with the sacred mushroom. I might start with the sacrament right away. I did this morning, right after I did my lymph routine that I told you about, I came into my cabin here, grabbed my little tincture, brought it outside, and I believe I took 9 drops this morning. So with the support of the medicine, I would begin setting intentions. You can take the medicine first and then speak your intention, or you can get clear on the intention and then take the medicine. I don't see that it's better one way or the other for me. Do what feels good for you. That intention setting. I have so much content around intention setting and an entire episode. I'm not going to get into it here, but your intention is your prayer. Your intention is your prayer. So this morning I just came up with my intention by praying out loud and talking through what I wanted, what I needed, what I was grateful for, and eventually came to my intention today. And it felt good and natural. You may have an intention like we'll do inside the Embodied Microdosing Challenge that's the exact same phrase for 4 weeks, for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, for 12 weeks. That's great. That can really cut out a lot of the I have to figure out a new intention. No, you have to go deep on this one intention and feel into it today. So let your prayer be heard. Let that intention be heard. Almost immediately after setting an intention, I'll go into some breath work. I think it's just a habit at this point because I know how well that embodiment works with the sacred mushroom and how quickly the tincture comes up in this liquid form, especially when held sublingually. Maybe it's just simple halo breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Right? Those breaths can be a little more regulating, a little more slowing. But I have to be honest, an activating breath for me, like a blow breath in and out of the mouth with the emphasis on the exhale, that kind of activating breath just very quickly helps my body begin to shift energy and release. I'll yawn, I'll burp. There'll be a kink in my neck that'll start talking pretty loud, and I'll stretch it out. Like that, to me, getting those cues from my body and my nervous system after 30 seconds of the blow breath and maybe a hold is so reinforcing. Like feeling the nervous system shifting, feeling that healing happening. Like, yes, I can kind of dig into that. And then it makes me want to go a little further. Can I do another minute? Can I do 2 minutes? Can I do 5 minutes? Right? It doesn't have to be a lot. Once a week, I'll probably do a longer session. I did about 25 minutes this past Sunday, and wow, I had the most incredible day after starting with 25 minutes of breath. And once a month, I'll do a 60-minute guided session with one of my teachers, and I'll have days and days of feeling the benefits of that. So however you want to get it, in little bursts or in longer chunks, let that embodiment piece come in and work with the sacred mushroom. All right, after the breath work, I may go back into prayer, some gratitude, some journaling, right? A gratitude list, it's not corny, and there's a reason that everybody suggests it. There's unbelievable amounts of research to support it. And I really find it brings me into alignment and to closer communion with God. People get really caught up on prayer. It's something I want to do some more teaching around, even as I grow in my prayer practices, but you don't have to have the perfect prayer. It really is just talking, and it comes with practice. It develops, I promise. Start talking. So after that, I might work with another medicine like CBD. I might burn some sage and say a prayer to clear some energy. I might move on to praying for someone in my life, meditating on the people I love, and maybe even going into a little bit of visioning. What does it look like for me to meet my children with more compassion and tolerance and patience today? I can see myself at my teenager's door just nodding and smiling in that vision, instead of like, why is your room still like this? Kind of energy, right? And finding that tricky place of like how to guide and support and teach and parent, and also how to let go and love, and lighten up. That's a big one for me. Lighten up around things that are really not as big of a deal as my nervous system might be making them out to be. So that visioning piece, I especially like visioning at night before sleep. I feel like it informs my sleep and maybe integrates and drops in through my unconscious and in my dreams. But yeah, I really love the sacred space for visioning. I might put some music on any of my Spotify playlists for breathwork, all of the stuff I play at Breathwork Church and in our drop-ins together and inside the membership and the free ministry community. It's all really wonderful for this kind of work. And then I'll end it. Then I'll speak some more gratitudes, speak my intention one more time, maybe finish out by writing some things down and blow that candle out and end that time there. What I explained to you can happen in 5 minutes, or it can happen in 15 minutes, or it can be extended to an hour on a day where I have that space. So what comes up for you when you hear about how I use my sacred space? You heard me share about how I used nature as a sacred space this morning. And is this something that you're interested in? Let me walk you through what you could do next, perhaps, if you feel ready to create an altar or a sacred space for yourself. Pick a surface, any surface, a table, a shelf. It could even be like a beautiful silk scarf that you lay out on the floor of your bedroom in front of your yoga mat after you do your stretching at night, right? And then you could tie everything up again in the little scarf if you don't feel safe leaving it out somewhere or don't have the space. And gather any items that resonate with you. Stones, feathers that you found. I have a snake skin at my altar that came across my hands at a very poignant moment. Candles, photos, mementos. Don't just get anything. And you know what? You don't need the items either. Okay, your tincture, your medicine is going to be an important item if you're creating the space for the purpose of developing your embodied microdosing practice. And then cleanse, sage, smoke cleanse, or speak cleansing over all of those items. Don't bring anything into the sacred space that isn't cleared of any other energy. Something like fresh flowers or fresh herbs cut from the garden can really bring a nice like fresh air lifeline into the sacred space. It doesn't have to be all like old, dead things, dried things. You can keep refreshing. I mean, I did some ancestral healing work and have studied with a few teachers who, you bring fresh food to the altar and offer it to the ancestors, that you don't come and ask for something. There's not a prayer where you say, I want this, show me this, I need this, and you haven't given something, right? So kind of thinking about the reciprocity, the exchange of being in sacred relationship with your spiritual allies, right? Is there something that you can offer to the altar? Food, candy, honey. I even brought a glass of red wine to my Italian ancestors once, and just enjoyed that kind of idea of an exchange. When I'm outside, lately I've been playing with the idea of, and have been doing this, scattering some items from my pantry, like a handful of some organic rice or oats, something that would have cost me money and that I might ration and, not want to waste. It's not wasting to take a handful and scatter it on the land. That's actually an ancient, beautiful practice of giving. Scatter some dry beans, give to the land before you take. So there are some women that might resonate with pouring your blood back into the earth, a similar kind of act of reciprocity here. So you may want to give or leave items or little gifts or candies on your altar. I like also a salt lamp, those Himalayan salt lamps. I think those really create like an awesome little glow to a sacred space. And it's one of my goals to get one for mine. What else? Guys, you don't need to do it right. You just need to start. And then just visit it. Visit it. Oh, I'm going to go check out my altar. I'm going to go sit here. Oh, this picture feels a little weird. Maybe I can check in with myself. What's that about, right? Am I resistant to this? Why? Is there something that needs to be cleared around this? Or is it just not right for my altar? There is no right or wrong way to do this. Everything that comes up around this process is also an opportunity for you to look at and practice and address the areas of your experience that are asking for healing. Okay. If you're avoiding your altar, I just want to say for those that have regularly done this, what I've had to learn over the last couple of years, if I'm like, I haven't been there in a long time, I don't know, I can't make my way over there, everything's just too crazy, I'm out of my routine, go clean it. When I go sit down and I'm like, I'm forcing myself to do this, I look around and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so dusty, right? Or all the like smoke, all the like the sage smoke and everything like has dropped on everything, and it's all messy and dusty and like old. And look, there's this picture here from this person who unfriended me and I don't want it here anymore. It's not representative. I'm actually not working with this medicine anymore, or I'm on an integration break, right? Go look and see, is this still representative of me? And then clean it. There is like no better feeling than sitting back down at your altar after you've like wiped everything down and swept everything and washed your meditation cushion cover and like, holy crap, I want to hang out here. This is fun. Let's put some music on and play. So thank you for listening to this message today, for me rambling about all my sacred spaces. And I just want to invite you to create or revisit your own sacred space this week. Light a candle, take a few breaths, sit in your own presence, talk to God, play a recording of breathwork, and let me take you through the breathing and the feeling part. You don't have to guide yourself through everything. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to explore more, join us inside the Embodied Microdosing Ministry. It's free. Check out the link in the show notes. Or if you really want to go deeper, join me inside my Journey to Heal membership. This is where we are hosting the challenge starting on April 25th, and where you get close access to me for like a teeny tiny price tag and a super amazing group of humans. So I'll link you all to that in the show notes. And thank you, thank you, thank you. If you really want to help me out, you can go ahead and like and subscribe and review and rate this podcast. If you're enjoying it, would be so wonderful to see your review come through. I don't think I have any yet at the time of this recording, and I would just be so honored and blessed by you if you could do that for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Go make your sacred space, have it reflect the sacredness that already lives inside of you. An external representation of what's so beautiful and glowy and sparkly and right about you right now. So much love.